What a statement from Gabriel. When sinners reach their fullness of human potential of evil, when transgressors reach their fullness, that is one of the most terrifying statements in the Bible related to human activity. I mean, that is a terrifying statement. When transgressors reach their fullness, it will go beyond any other generation in history, the depth of perversion and darkness that human beings will operate in. But the glorious part is on the exact opposite spectrum. This opposite end of the spectrum is the body of Christ will walk in unity, in love, and great righteousness like no time ever in history. Beloved, sexual perversion not only will go to deeper depths of perversion, it will pervade the societies of the earth. Now, of the Bible, the most prominent name for the Antichrist is the beast. He's called the beast 36 times in the book of Revelation. He's only called the Antichrist one time as the Antichrist in the whole of the Bible in 1 John. In other places, he's called the man of lawlessness, the man of sin, son of perdition. But he's called the beast mostly. And the reason he's called a beast, one reason, it will be impossible to negotiate with him for mercy. I mean, the greatest reason to give leniency, he won't do it. He has no capacity for mercy. And his inward makeup will be absolutely devoid of mercy. He will be a beast. No reasoning, most cruel in him, in terms of to give leniency and mercy. He'll be the most cruel man that ever walked the earth, but he will masquerade initially as a man of peace who loves the goodwill of man. It says here that this man will have fierce features and he will understand sinister schemes. What does it mean that he knows sinister schemes? Well, he'll understand that he'll discern the evil motives of men. When men are trying to trick him, because undoubtedly the kings of the earth, as he's rising up and even in power, everyone's negotiating with an angle. He will understand all of their schemes. Nothing will be able to be pulled over. No deception will work against him. And the sinister schemes, he'll be able to solve complex problems. I think that sinister schemes has a number of different facets to it. Every one of these phrases. Remember, Gabriel is giving every one of these phrases, and coming from the lips of Gabriel, every one of them is filled with meaning. He'll solve complex problems, sinister schemes in the natural realm, political, military, economic dilemmas, and schemes and plans and hindrances and roadblocks. By demonic spirits, he will be able to see through to the solution and see the deception or any kind of sinister activity even being presented towards him. And he'll be able to devise sinister schemes by this demonic power.
The Iranian regime is the leading state sponsor of terror. It exports dangerous missiles, fuels conflicts across the Middle East, and supports terrorist proxies and militias such as Hezbollah, Hamas, the Taliban, and Al-Qaeda. Over the years, Iran and its proxies have bombed American embassies and military installations, murdered hundreds of American service members, and kidnapped, imprisoned, and tortured American citizens. What? The Iranian regime has funded its long reign of chaos and terror by plundering the wealth of its own people. No action taken by the regime has been more dangerous than its pursuit of nuclear weapons and the means of delivering them. In 2015, the previous administration joined with other nations in a deal regarding Iran's nuclear program. This agreement was known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. In theory, the so-called Iran deal was supposed to protect the United States and our allies from the lunacy of an Iranian nuclear bomb, a weapon that will only endanger the survival of the Iranian regime.
And for 10 years, the UN imposed sanctions. The deal, reached in 2015, brought together the permanent members of the UN Security Council and the EU.
It is a great honor for us to announce that we have reached an agreement on the Iranian nuclear issue.
And it was called the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action.
A shared commitment to peace and to join hands in order to make our world safer.
Iran agreed to do away with large parts of its nuclear program and allow international inspectors to monitor what was left. In return, the international community agreed to lift the sanctions, allowing Iran to do business, sell oil, and recover $100 billion of assets frozen in banks abroad. But not everyone was happy. Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister in particular, said Iran could not and cannot be trusted.
The Iran deal, the nuclear deal, is based on lies.
The Europeans say the deal isn't perfect, but it is working, and that it would be crazy to tear it up. Some say it's actually the Americans who are not abiding by the deal.
The agreement was so poorly negotiated that even if Iran fully complies, the regime can still be on the verge of a nuclear breakout in just a short period of time. The deal's sunset provisions are totally unacceptable. If I allowed this deal to stand, there would soon be a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. Everyone would want their weapons ready by the time Iran had theirs. Making matters worse, the deal's inspection provisions lack adequate mechanisms to prevent, detect, and punish cheating, and don't even have the unqualified right to inspect many important locations, including military facilities.
Top officials were very much in favor of the deal, but only one still holds their office.
If we can determine that this is in our best interest, then clearly we should stay with it.
Americans agree with the Secretary of Defense. A recent poll shows a majority of respondents back the agreement.
Of the opinion that the JCPOA is a first step.
But Trump believes he can negotiate better terms.
They are going to want to make a new and lasting deal, one that benefits all of Iran and the Iranian people.
The original deal imposed strict limits and monitoring of Iran's nuclear program. Iran was forced to get rid of the vast majority of the uranium it had already enriched, as well as get rid of most of the centrifuges that it used to enrich that uranium. Under the deal, Iran also couldn't enrich uranium past the threshold for producing nuclear energy, which is significantly lower than the threshold for medical uranium and weapons-grade uranium. The UN's nuclear agency has verified that Iran complied with the deal, which is also what makes the US leaving so significant, especially right now on the cusp of negotiations with North Korea over its own nuclear program.
In fact, at this very moment, Secretary Pompeo is on his way to North Korea in preparation for my upcoming meeting with Kim Jong-un.
But here's the thing. If you're the North Korean government, and especially if you're Kim Jong-un, and you're watching what just happened with the Iran deal, why would you believe that if you struck a deal with President Trump, that the next president would stick to it? If you've just seen, literally, the United States tear up the previous deal they had signed with the country to get that country to give up its nuclear program. And that's why President Trump's decision to pull out the Iran deal is so dangerous. Iran. So this isn't just a blow diplomatically, it's also a blow financially to many of our closest allies around the world.
Mr. President, how does this make America safer? How does this make America safer?
Thank you very much. This will make America much safer.
And their partners last night at the White House for dinner. The gathering came amid concerns about tensions with North Korea and the Iran nuclear deal. During a photo op in the White House dining room, President Trump made this puzzling comment.
You guys know what this represents? Well, maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be calm before the storm.
And now the president was asked again what he meant by calm before the storm, and he responded, "You'll find out." The White House has not clarified the comments further. Mr. Trump faces an October 15th deadline on the Iran nuclear deal. He is expected to refuse to certify that Iran is in compliance. CBS News White House and senior foreign affairs correspondent Margaret Brennan joins us now. She's at the White House. I share the question that was raised in that room, Margaret. What storm is the president referring to?
The White House is refusing to clarify what the president meant, and if you play out that full tape, you had reporters repeatedly say to the president, "Sir, what storm? Which storm? Are you talking about Iran? Are you talking about ISIS? What are you referring to?" It's a very unusual statement, and it's one that raises a lot of concern, not necessarily the people in that room, but here in Washington and around the world. It's not something that an American president does typically to sort of tease the idea of an impending crisis. Typically, it's one you try to play down and express you're in control of, but clearly the president was trying to send a message of strength, one he constantly refers to as one of the things that differentiates him. He often trots out his military, as you saw with that dinner. He was standing alongside all the combatant commanders, all the big military leaders here in the United States gathered with him here. This is often something that's done behind closed doors, but President Trump wanted the press there and wanted to make that statement. It was deliberate.
Have come up with a solution that's really, I think, very good. Now, I have to tell you, it's an unbelievable.
Everybody